She paid a stranger's school fees with money she didn't have. Not once, not twice, month after month, until it became the quiet rhythm of her life. People laughed at her for it. They called her naive. They said she was trying to look like a savior. They said she must be getting something out of it. She wasn't. She was just tired of watching a kid lose everything for reasons that weren't his fault. And tonight, at exactly 7 p.m., she's going to stand up in a crowded community center in Cleveland, Ohio, and tell the richest man in the room to take his shiny promises and leave her neighborhood alone. She doesn't know he's the boy whose fees she paid. She doesn't know he kept the smallest thing she ever gave him like it was gold. And she definitely doesn't know he came back to find her. At 6:12 a.m., as the penthouse lights turned on automatically in a downtown Chicago high-rise, the lake looked like sheet metal in winter light. The espresso machine on the marble counter cost more than most people's cars. A closet wall held suits so perfectly arranged it looked like a showroom. Ethan Reed stood in the middle of it all and felt absolutely nothing. A notification blinked on his phone. Closing confirmed. 8-figure acquisition. The kind of win people toasted for. Good, he said. His face didn't change. His hands didn't shake. His heart didn't celebrate. Because the only thing he cared about wasn't the deal. It was the crumpled paper crane in the drawer of his bedside table, folded from a torn tuition receipt with a faded red paid stamp. He took it out like a habit, like a prayer. The paper was soft from years of being touched. He turned it in his palm, remembering the smell of school hallways and winter coats and cafeteria pizza he never got to eat. Every morning, he asked the same question. Where is she? He had asked it for 5 years straight. He had hired private investigators. He had paid data brokers. He had searched old church records, yearbooks, scholarship lists, and school board minutes. He had pinned her name, if he could find it, to maps, then crossed it out when it led nowhere. Ethan Reed didn't lose. Not in business, not in life. But he couldn't find her. Then, 2 weeks ago, one investigator called him at midnight and said, I found the neighborhood, Ethan. Not her, but the neighborhood. And the neighborhood was about to get swallowed by a redevelopment project. A project Ethan's company now controlled. A project that had just scheduled a community listening meeting at 7 p.m. tonight. Ethan stared at the calendar invite, his jaw tight, his throat dry, like someone had pressed a thumb into an old scar. Because buried in the attached PDF was one name in the comment section of a public petition. A name most people would scroll past. Maya Carter. He read it 5 times, then 10. Maya. Not a guarantee, not proof, but a spark. He hadn't said her name out loud in years because it felt too sacred for a room that didn't deserve it. He whispered it anyway. Maya. Then he opened his suitcase, laid the paper crane inside a small velvet pouch, and zipped it like it was the most valuable thing he owned. What Ethan didn't know was that Maya was on the other side of that same day, and staring at her bank app and doing math that didn't work. Maya Carter's apartment sat on the edge of Glenville, where the sidewalks cracked like old knuckles and the winter wind came in sideways. Her heat was on, but it didn't feel warm. The radiator clicked and knocked like it was arguing with itself. On her kitchen table, a stack of envelopes, a flyer about the meeting, and a school photo of a boy with wide eyes and a crooked smile. Her little brother had passed away 2 years ago. Her mom had passed the year before that. Maya was 36, exhausted, and still the person people called when things went wrong. Girl, you going to that meeting tonight? Her neighbor Denise had asked in the hallway. Maya had nodded. Somebody has to. Denise had smirked. Don't let them smooth talk you again. Maya didn't answer, because she wasn't afraid of smooth talk. She was afraid of what happens when nobody speaks. At 6:40 p.m., she put on her coat, grabbed her folder, and stared at one object in her drawer before closing it. A paper crane. Faded, fragile, folded from a tuition receipt with a red stamp. She hadn't unfolded it in years. She didn't need to. She could still feel the day it was made. 20 years earlier, Maya had been 16, standing in the hallway of St. Bridget's Academy with a binder hugged to her chest and too much responsibility in her eyes. Her mom cleaned offices at night. Her dad had left when Maya was 9. Maya worked weekends at a grocery store, then came home and helped her younger brother with homework, then microwaved dinner, then fell asleep with her school uniform still on. She was the kind of girl adults praised because she made as being tired look polite. And that morning, she saw a boy she had never seen before, sitting on a bench by the main office, knees pulled to his chest, shoes wet, hair uncombed, staring at the floor like the building might swallow him. He was younger than her, maybe 11, too thin for the cold, one sleeve torn at the cuff. The kind of kid teachers noticed only when he disrupted something. Sister Elaine walked past him like he was part of the furniture, then turned to Maya. "Maya, sweetheart, can you take these attendance sheets to the 3rd floor?" Maya nodded, but her eyes stayed on the boy. The boy looked up just once, and Maya saw something in him that made her stomach drop. Not anger, not attitude, just hunger. The kind that makes a kid quiet. She waited until Sister Elaine disappeared, then stepped closer. "Hey," Maya said softly. "Are you okay?" The boy flinched like he wasn't used to gentle voices. "I'm fine," he lied. Maya had heard that lie 1,000 times in her own house, when the lights got cut off, when her mom's hands shook from fatigue, when her brother asked for something she couldn't buy. She crouched slightly. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Ethan." "Ethan what?" He swallowed. "I don't know." Maya blinked. "You don't know your last name?" He shook his head fast, embarrassed. "I used to, but I don't have papers." Maya felt her throat tighten. "Where's your mom?" Ethan stared at his shoes. "Gone." That was all he said. Gone. Maya stood up slowly, like her body needed time to accept what she had just heard. Then she did what her grandma would have done without thinking. She opened her backpack and pulled out her lunch, a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in foil, an apple, a bag of chips she had bought with her own money. She held it out. Ethan stared at it like it was a trap. Maya smiled a little. "Take it." "I can't," he said. "You can," she replied, and her voice didn't leave room for debate. Ethan's hands trembled when he took the sandwich. He didn't eat it right away. He just held it, like he didn't trust the world enough to believe it was his. That was the first day. The first day was impulse. The second day was choice. Because Maya went home that night, opened the fridge, and saw there wasn't much. She saw her mom asleep on the couch in her uniform, shoes still on. She saw her little brother curled up under a blanket with holes. And she still packed 2 lunches the next morning. One for her, one for Ethan. By the 5th day, people noticed. Girls in Maya's class whispered, "Why is she feeding that kid?" A boy in the hallway laughed. Maya got herself a pet project. Even Sister Elaine frowned. "Maya, you can't be responsible for everyone." Maya didn't answer. She just handed Ethan the sandwich every morning, like a ritual. Then the tuition notice came. One afternoon, Maya passed the office and saw Ethan sitting there again, shoulders slumped, eyes dull. A letter lay open on the desk. Sister Elaine was speaking in that tight, tired voice adults use when they've decided something is hopeless. "Ethan, you can't stay enrolled without payment. We've extended what we can. I'm sorry." Ethan didn't cry. He just nodded like he had expected it. Maya stepped into the doorway. "How much?" Sister Elaine looked startled. "Maya, this isn't your—" "How much?" Maya repeated. Sister Elaine hesitated. $300 for the remainder of the semester. Maya's stomach flipped. 300 might as well have been 3 million. Maya worked at the grocery store. She had saved that money for her mom's overdue bill and her brother's field trip. She had counted it in her head 100 times like it was a life raft. And now she was standing in a doorway with a boy who had nobody. People mocked her before she even paid it. One of the office assistants scoffed. "Maya, don't be stupid." A senior girl rolled her eyes. "She's doing it for attention." Even Maya's mom, when she told her that night, it stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Maya, baby, we barely have enough." Maya's hands shook, but her voice didn't. "He's going to get kicked out, Mom." Her mom sighed, exhausted. "The world is full of kids who need help." Maya nodded. "I know, but he's right here." Her mom closed her eyes for a long moment. Then she whispered, like she was speaking to Maya's grandmother's ghost. "Your grandma would have done it." Maya opened her savings jar and counted the bills with tears running down her face. The next morning, she walked into the office and placed the money on the desk. Sister Elaine stared. "Maya." Maya swallowed hard. "Pay it." When the receipt printed, the red stamp came down with a loud thunk. Paid. Ethan watched, stunned, like he couldn't understand how a person his age could choose him. Maya pushed the receipt toward him. "Keep it," she said. Ethan's eyes widened. "Why?" "Because," Maya said, and her voice softened. "One day you're going to forget somebody believed in you. I don't want you to." Ethan stared at the receipt, then tore a corner off carefully, like he was splitting something sacred. He folded it into a small paper crane with clumsy hands. Then he held it out. "Here," he said, "so you don't forget either." Maya took it and laughed through her tears. "Okay." Ethan looked at her like the world had finally given him a reason to breathe. "I'm going to pay you back," he said, serious as a grown man. "When I'm rich." Maya chuckled. "Sure." Ethan leaned closer, voice low. "No, I mean it. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to take care of you." Maya didn't know what to say, so she did what she always did when she was scared to hope. She teased. "Okay, billionaire." Ethan held her gaze, eyes burning with something fierce. "Promise." Maya nodded once. "Promise." And that was how a paper crane became a contract. At 6:55 p.m., Ethan Reed stepped out of a black SUV in Cleveland's cold air. The building ahead was plain brick, fluorescent lights, a hand-painted sign that said, "Community meeting tonight." Not glamorous, not important to most people. But to Ethan, it felt like walking into the only room on earth that mattered. He adjusted his coat. A security guard moved toward him. His assistant checked the time. Ethan didn't care about the optics. He cared about one thing. Would she be there? What Ethan didn't know was that Maya was already inside, sitting in the second row, jaw set, ready to fight. When she had no idea the boy she once saved had just walked into her life again. Maya stood up the second the developer's rep finished talking. The room was packed. Plastic chairs, coffee and styrofoam cups, old men in work boots, moms with babies on hips, teenagers leaning against the wall pretending they didn't care. The man at the front, tall, expensive suit, calm face, smiled like he had practiced smiling in mirrors. "We hear you," he said. "We want partnership." Maya didn't wait for applause. "What you want is land," she said. "And you're using pretty words to take it." A murmur rolled through the room. The man's smile tightened. "Ma'am, we're offering relocation assistance and job opportunities." "Relocation?" Maya snapped. "You mean pushing people out?" The man opened his hands. "We're improving the neighborhood." Maya's laugh was sharp. "Improving for who? For the families already here? Or for the people you want to move in after we're gone?" The room hummed. Heads nodded. People whispered her name. Denise leaned over. "That's my girl." Then the man behind the developer rep stepped forward, and the room went quiet in a way that felt unnatural. like the air changed. He didn't need a microphone to command attention, not because he was loud, because he was still, because his eyes looked like they had seen too much. Maya stared at him and felt a strange flicker in her chest, something familiar she couldn't place. He looked at her like he was trying not to breathe. The developer rep cleared his throat. "This is Mr. Ethan Reed, CEO of Reed Urban Partners." A few people gasped. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "That's him." Maya didn't care what his name was. She cared what his money was about to do. "Well, Mr. Reed," she said, voice steady, "I don't care how many buildings you own in Chicago. You don't get to buy our lives." Ethan's jaw clenched. He took one step closer. "What's your name?" Maya blinked, irritated. "Excuse me?" He asked again, softer, like it mattered more than the project. "Your name." The room shifted. Even the angry murmurs paused. Maya lifted her chin. "Maya Carter." Ethan's face changed. Not dramatically. Not like a soap opera. Like a man who just found oxygen after years underwater. His hands trembled. He whispered, barely audible, "Maya." Maya froze. Nobody had said her name like that in a long time. Like it was something precious. Her heart thudded. "Do I know you?" she demanded, all because the feeling in her chest was scaring her. Ethan swallowed. His eyes shined. "You saved me?" he said. Maya's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Ethan reached into his suit jacket slowly, carefully, like he was pulling out evidence in a courtroom. He held up a small velvet pouch. The room went silent. Maya stared, confused, annoyed, then unsettled. Ethan opened the pouch and pulled out something that shouldn't exist in a billionaire's hands. A paper crane, yellowed, fragile, folded from an old receipt. Maya's breath left her body. Her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. She reached into her coat pocket, into the small side zipper she never used for anything else. And she pulled out her own paper crane, 2 pieces of the same receipt, 2 red stamps, faded but still visible. Paid. Like the room exploded. Gasps, whispers, someone crying, someone laughing like they couldn't believe it. Maya's hands shook. "No," she whispered. "No way." Ethan's voice broke. "It's me." Maya stared at him, and suddenly she was 16 again, standing in a hallway, holding a sandwich, looking at a hungry boy with wet shoes. "Ethan," she whispered. Ethan nodded, eyes wet. "You fed me. You paid my fees. You—" "Stop!" Maya snapped, because her throat was closing. "Stop talking like that." Ethan's face crumpled. "I looked for you for 5 years." Maya blinked hard. "Why?" Ethan's laugh was shaky. "Because you were the first person who treated me like I mattered." The room was watching them, like they were a movie. Maya hated it. She turned toward the crowd, voice sharp. "This meeting is not about my past." But her eyes betrayed her, and they flicked back to the paper crane in Ethan's hand. The past had just walked into the present and sat down. What Ethan didn't know, the narrator would have said, was that Maya had spent years trying to forget that day, because remembering it hurt. Maya's dad leaving, her mom's exhaustion, her brother's illness, the bills, the hunger. She didn't save Ethan because she was rich in kindness. She saved him because she knew what it felt like to be left behind. Ethan stepped closer. "Please," he said quietly. "Just let me talk to you after." Maya's eyes narrowed. "After what? After you bulldoze our block?" Ethan flinched like she slapped him. The developer rep stepped forward quickly. "This isn't—" Ethan lifted a hand, and the rep stopped mid-sentence. Ethan looked at Maya like he was making a decision that would cost him something. "The project is paused," he said, voice clear. "Effective immediately." A wave of shock rolled through the room. The rep's mouth fell open. "Mr. Reed." Ethan didn't even glance at him. Paused. Maya stared, suspicious. You think pausing is going to impress me? Ethan swallowed. No, he said. I think it's the first time I can do the right thing in that room. Maya's chest hurt. She wanted to believe him. She didn't trust belief anymore. Meet me outside, she said, and her voice came out colder than she intended. 5 minutes. Ethan nodded like a man being offered mercy. Maya walked out with her heart pounding, and Denise followed, whispering, Girl, who is that? Maya didn't answer, because the question she was really asking was different. What do you do when the past comes back with money? Outside, the Cleveland wind bit through coats. Ethan stood under a streetlight, hands in his pockets, shoulders stiff, like he was afraid she'd disappear if he blinked. Maya crossed her arms. Talk. Ethan exhaled. I didn't become rich because I was lucky. I became rich because I was angry. Maya's eyes narrowed. That's cute. Ethan shook his head. It's not cute. Foster homes, shelters, sleeping in the back of a laundromat. I learned how to survive by watching who had power and who didn't. Maya's throat tightened, but she stayed sharp. So now you're the one with power. Ethan nodded once. And I hate who I had to become to get it. Maya scoffed. Then why are you here, Ethan? To hand me a check and clear your conscience? Ethan's eyes flashed with pain. No. He pulled something else from his pocket. A small laminated copy of the same tuition receipt. The red paid stamp photocopied and preserved like a relic. I kept everything, he said, because if I ever forgot you, I'd become the kind of person who walks past hungry kids. Maya's jaw tightened. You don't owe me anything. Ethan stepped forward. I owe you everything. Maya held up a hand. Stop. Don't turn me into a charity story. Ethan froze. Maya's voice sharpened. You don't get to come back rich and decide what I deserve. You don't get to buy closure. Ethan swallowed hard. Then tell me what you want. Maya stared at him, and the answer surprised her. I want you to prove it, she said. Ethan blinked. Prove what? That you didn't come here to feel good? Maya said. That you came here to do good. Ethan's breath caught. Maya leaned closer. Not for me, for the people in that room. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay. Maya's eyes stayed hard. And don't think this changes anything between us. Ethan's voice was rough. I know. Maya hesitated. One dinner, she said. As friends, so I can look you in the eye without a crowd. Ethan's lips parted, like he wanted to say 100 things, but he only managed. Okay. Maya turned to leave, then stopped. She glanced back. And Ethan? He looked up. Maya's voice softened just a fraction. Don't make promises you can't keep. Ethan's eyes burned. I kept mine, he whispered. I just came late. Maya walked away before her face betrayed her. While what Maya didn't know was that Ethan had already started the next move. Because he had learned one thing about real change. It had to be fast. Because if you wait, the world swallows people again. 2 weeks later, the old recreation center on East 105th got new heating. The busted windows got replaced. The after-school program got staff. Kids got meals that didn't come from vending machines. People started calling it the Carter Center, and Maya hated the name. I didn't do this for my name, she told Ethan the first time she saw the sign. Ethan stood beside her, hands in his coat, looking tired in a way money couldn't fix. Then we'll change it, he said. Maya stared at him. No, she said finally. Leave it, but don't let it be fake. Ethan nodded. It won't. The first scholarship application opened 3 days later. 50 slots, fully funded. Not just tuition, books, transportation, counseling, real support. Maya read the plan twice and said, "This is a lot." Ethan's voice was quiet. "It's still not enough." Maya didn't trust him yet, not fully. But she watched him show up at 6 a.m. to meetings with community leaders. She watched him sit in folding chairs and listen. She watched him take criticism without snapping back. She watched him apologize when he was wrong. That last one shocked her most. What Ethan didn't know, the narrator would say, was that Maya was falling for him in the smallest moments because she wasn't impressed by his money. She was impressed by his restraint. By the third dinner, it stopped feeling like one dinner as friends. It started feeling like two people healing around the same wound. One night, after a long day, Maya found Ethan standing in the empty gym of the center, staring at the floor. "What are you doing?" she asked. Ethan didn't look up. "I used to sleep in places like this," he said. Maya's chest tightened. She stepped closer. "You don't have to carry that alone anymore." Ethan laughed once, bitter. "I'm a billionaire, Maya. People think I can't be alone." Maya's voice was firm. "People think wrong." He finally looked at her, and his eyes looked like that 11-year-old boy again. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out her paper crane. Ethan pulled out his. They held them side by side under the gym lights. Maya swallowed. "I tried to forget," she admitted. Ethan's voice broke. "I tried not to." Silence stretched between them, full of things they hadn't said. Then Maya said the truth she'd been choking on. "If you had come back broke," she said, "I would still be mad at you for leaving." Ethan flinched. "I didn't leave by choice." Maya nodded. "I know. But my life kept going, Ethan. I kept paying bills. I kept losing people. And you—" "I kept looking," Ethan said quietly. "Not every day. Not when I was surviving. But when I had power, I looked. And when I had enough power, I wouldn't stop." Maya stared at him, angry and grateful at the same time. Then she did something that surprised even her. She stepped closer and rested her forehead lightly against his chest. Just for a second. Just enough to feel his heartbeat. Ethan's hands hovered like he was afraid to touch her wrong. Maya whispered, "Don't mess this up." Ethan's voice was a promise. "I won't." And he didn't. And the Carter Center expanded. Then a second one opened on the west side. Then another partnership formed with a vocational program. Then a housing initiative launched for teens aging out of foster care. Local news cameras showed up. Then bigger ones. People started tying small paper cranes to backpacks as a symbol of "someone paid for me." A state representative proposed a bill to expand support for foster youth across Ohio. A business school professor called Ethan and asked to teach the model as a case study in community-led development. Maya watched it all like she was watching a wave she hadn't meant to start. One day, a teenage girl approached Maya after a workshop, eyes down. "Miss Carter," she said softly, "is it true you paid for a boys' school?" Maya swallowed. "Yes." The girl's voice cracked. "Or people say you're stupid for it." Maya's mouth tightened. "They said that." The girl hesitated. "Would you do it again?" Maya didn't answer right away. She thought about the hunger in Ethan's eyes, the red paid stamp, the paper crane, the way one decision changed two lives. Maya nodded once. "Yes." The girl's shoulders shook. "Then, can you help me apply for the scholarship?" Maya smiled, and it felt like sunlight in her chest. "Sit down," she said. "We're doing this together." Later that night, Ethan drove Maya to the old school building that used to be St. Bridget's Academy. It had been renovated into apartments. The hallway where she gave him his first sandwich was gone. Maya stared out the window, quiet. Ethan parked and turned to her. "Can I show you something?" Maya's eyes narrowed. Is this where you pull out a ring?" Ethan laughed, nervous. Not yet, Maya scoffed. Good. Ethan stepped out, walked around, and opened her door like an old-fashioned gentleman who didn't care if it looked cheesy. Trust me, he said. Maya followed him across the sidewalk to a small courtyard behind the building. A few trees, a bench, a plaque. Maya frowned. What is this? Ethan nodded toward the plaque. It read, Carter Scholarship Fund, established in honor of a girl who fed a boy and never asked for anything back. Maya's throat tightened. Ethan. Ethan's voice was soft. I know you hate your name on things. Maya's eyes filled. Then why did you do it? Ethan stepped closer. Because people mocked you for what you did, he said. And I want the world to know they were wrong. Maya blinked hard. You're impossible. Ethan's eyes shined. I'm grateful. Then he reached into his pocket, not for a ring yet, but for something smaller, a paper crane. He placed it on the bench gently, like he was laying down a piece of his life. Maya pulled her own crane out and set it beside his. 2 pieces of the same story. 2 people who survived. Ethan looked at her, voice steady. Maya, I loved you before I knew what love was. Maya scoffed, wiping a tear. You were 11. Ethan smiled. I know. Maya stared at him, and the fight drained out of her for one honest moment. I didn't save you because I wanted you to come back, she said. I saved you because you were hungry. Ethan nodded. And that's why I'm here. He took a breath. Then he pulled out a ring. Maya groaned. You really? Ethan dropped to one knee anyway. People walking their dogs stopped and stared. Maya whispered, Ethan. Ethan's voice shook. Everyone mocked you, he said. They said you were foolish. They said you were trying to look good. But you were the only person in my life who made me feel human. Maya covered her mouth, tears slipping. Ethan swallowed. Marry me, Maya. Not because I'm rich, because I'm yours. And I've spent my whole life trying to become the kind of man your kindness deserved. Maya laughed through tears. You're dramatic, Ethan smiled. I learned from you. Maya stared at him, then at the ring, then at the paper cranes on the bench. She exhaled, shaking her head like she couldn't believe her own life. Yes, she whispered. Ethan's face crumpled with relief. He stood, slid the ring on her finger, and then pulled her into a hug that felt like 2 timelines finally meeting. Their wedding wasn't in a mansion. It was in the renovated community center gym, dressed with white lights and paper cranes hanging from the ceiling like tiny promises. Kids from the program walked down the aisle tossing folded cranes instead of flower petals. Denise cried louder than everybody. Ethan cried too, and he didn't even try to hide it. And when the night ended, when the music stopped, when the last chair got folded up, Maya stood in the doorway of the center with her coat on, watching the snow fall. A small voice behind her said, "Excuse me?" Maya turned. A boy stood there, maybe 10 years old, backpack straps tight in his fists, eyes wide, cheeks red from the cold. I heard there's food here, he whispered. Maya's chest tightened. Ethan stepped beside her, looking down at the boy, face soft. Maya didn't ask questions first. She reached into the pocket of her coat and pulled out a granola bar she'd saved without thinking. She handed it to him. The boy stared like it might disappear. Maya smiled gently. What's your name? He swallowed. Jordan. Maya nodded. Okay, Jordan, come inside. Ethan leaned closer to Maya, voice low. You know what people used to call you? Maya raised an eyebrow. Stupid. Ethan shook his head. No, he said. They called you foolish. Maya scoffed. Same thing. Ethan smiled. Not anymore. Maya looked at Jordan walking into the warmth, and something inside her settled. Because the truth was simple. A small act didn't just change one boy's life. It built a whole new ending. And if you've ever been mocked for doing the right thing, if you've ever helped someone and got nothing but laughter back, remember this: the world doesn't always clap when you plant the seed, but that doesn't mean it won't grow. If this story hit you, say what part got you the hardest in the comments. And if you want more billionaire romance stories built like this, where love isn't just rich, it's meaningful, stick around.